Welcome to The Culture. We rest at the pulse of the community, providing all things news, music, fashion, events, and everything that we talk about in between. It's a lifestyle. We are The Culture. Hi, and welcome to another edition of The Culture. I'm your host, Jessica Garrett Modkins, and joining us today is Senator Shevrin Jones. Welcome to the show, Senator Jones.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessica. It's good to see you.
Yes, it's good to see you. I feel like it's been so long, that Facebook, it makes me feel like I've talked to people when I really haven't talked to people. And I'm just so glad to be able to share this public PDA moment with you. I can't believe this is our first time talking on The Culture.
I know. I've seen the show. You got some amazing people coming on. I'm not the millionaire man that's coming up. I want to be.
Right. Well, Senator, it's been a year. We've been dealing with COVID, and in fact, you campaigned victoriously through the pandemic. Can you give us a glimpse of what was your road to becoming senator?
Well, you know what, the one thing that I was clear on while we were campaigning was that people wanted they wanted a leader who they could trust, and they also wanted a leader who was on the grounds, especially at that moment, considering that the pandemic, no one knew that this 1 in 100 year type of event would come at such a time, especially during campaign time. And we wanted to figure out what was the best way that we could still continue to engage with people, to show them that leadership requires you to be out in the trenches in the midst of everything that was happening. And I think that's how we were able to be victorious. We were still at people's doors. We were still at going to events to pass out, whether it was food, whether it was doing unemployment. We still remained on the ground, and it was that got us across the finish line.
Well, congratulations, and thank you for joining us. And it looks like you're still on the ground. Miami made national news here with just everything that happened over the weekend with a string of senseless shootings. And I saw you at one of the press conferences with Mayor Levine Cava. Can you bring us up to speed on where we are, what's going on, and just how do we move forward with the senseless shootings?
Yeah, so, Jessica, what we're seeing right now when it comes to the gun violence that's happening, that has been happening, let's be extremely clear, that has been happening within our community, is now that the world is back open, and there is a total microscope on the things that's happening in the community. There's a lack of employment that's happening. There is a lack of economic development within communities. Yeah, you give me the list, we can continue going. There's a lack of activities for children and what they can do in communities. But yet still, we have a governor who has not and will not provide the necessary resources into these communities to be able to combat things. I was reading a report that was done back in 1997 from in Chicago and also in Baltimore, and how they begin to combat gun violence. And a lot of it has to deal with the economic development and the economic cycle that happens in communities, whether it's job placement, whether it's job recovery for those who are returning citizens out of our criminal justice system, whether it's giving resources for children, giving them something to do, because if they don't have anything to do, they'll find something to do. And what we just saw in Miami is not just gang related. That was clearly what is happening in Miami-Dade County. Not at the rate is what's happening in other places, but one shooting is way too much. And so we're going to have to get very creative, Jessica, in what we as a state and as a city are going to do to begin to get us out of this pandemic, because that's what it is, this pandemic that we're in right now. No, I don't want to do any more of your meetings. No, we don't need to do any more press conferences and then walk away and everyone feel good to say that we did something. There has to be some active collaboration that takes place from leaders in office and those who are not in office to combat this. What the answer is? No one person can say that they have the answer. It is a collaborative effort that we're going to have to do.
Wow. Let's take a quick break, and when we return, let's get into what's going on in Tallahassee. Hit me with your best
COVID-19 vaccine is here. We're giving it our best shot for a strong, healthy community. Find out more at miamidade.gov/vaccine. Take your best shot at life. Get vaccinated.
Welcome back to the show. We have with us Senator Shevrin Jones. And Senator Jones, I'd like to get an update on what is going on legislatively. Governor DeSantis, in fact, he pledged last year, spoke very much in every news outlet that I could think of about this new legislation, HB1. Mm-hmm. Can you explain where we are, what it is with this anti-riot bill?
Yeah, so as you all know, and as you know, Jessica, that marching and showing up at demonstrations because of the injustices that has been happening in this country for years is nothing new for our community. After the death of George Floyd and after the voices were being raised for justice for Breonna Taylor over the summer months, that was during the same time as COVID was taking place. The governor did not choose to talk about what we needed to do to bring our state out of this pandemic. He didn't speak about the unemployment crisis that we were dealing with. He didn't speak about the amount of COVID deaths and the families that were mourning because of people who were dying from COVID. But you know what he did do? He did say that we're going to make sure what's happening in Wisconsin, Minnesota, New York, Chicago, and these other areas with the demonstrations for George Floyd do not happen in Florida. He didn't make mention of the fact that Black men are being shot at an alarm rate by police officers or houses are being raided with no police warrants. He didn't speak about any of that, but he chose to speak about that. And so then they come out with HB1, which now basically criminalizes an individual or individuals for if they go out to raise their voices and they subject it as a riot. That they in the legislation, it does not define what a riot is. So Jessica, you and I can go out, hold up signs, and we can be speaking about the injustices that's happening. If a police deem what we are doing as a riot, you and I can be arrested. If we're arrested on a Friday, the law now says that you and I cannot ask for bail and we can't get out until we see a judge. So not only do we want to clog up our criminal justice system, but if you and I are convicted, we now have a felony record. And as you know, in Florida, a felony, I can't vote. It makes it difficult for me to get a job. And the list continues to go on. And the governor and the Republicans know good and well that rightfully affects our community because we're the ones who are out on the streets. We're the ones who are out there speaking out against the things that are happening within our communities. They didn't speak about January 6th when white supremacists tried to overtake our democracy, because clearly, let's be clear that if January 6th was a bunch of Black folk, they'll still be cleaning the blood off the street right now. So HB1 is a response to what we have been doing for so many years when it comes to speaking out against the injustices that has been going on in this country for so long.
Is there any way out of this?
The only way out of it is through the groups that's suing the state of Florida for the asinine laws that came out of this legislative session. This legislative session was a because we can type of legislative session. They did it because they can and they could, and they did it. And so now we have to eat it. And this is another thing that we as a community have to be clear on. Us, after the fact, is no good because it's already signed into law. It's the engagement before the fact that we have to do. And that's why in our office, I have made it my extreme business that we are going to engage people. If you don't want to come to us, we're going to come to you. We're going to be doing these living room talks, sit with shelves, conversations in the backyard, in the front yard, in your church. We got to take it back to the old school because it is so many problems that's taking place to where our community, we're missing out on the conversation. And sometimes it's because our elected officials, they don't want to get their hands dirty, but you have to.
You mentioned this earlier, voting.
Yeah.
This is a hot topic across the United States, but especially here in Florida. Can you bring us up to speed on SB 90?
600,000 Democrats voted by mail in this last election. 600,000, record numbers. But also within that 600,000, the Republicans, your president, he won this state. And even after the election, many of my colleagues said that this was the most safe and secure election ever to be held. But yet still, because of that 600,000 number, they said, no, we need to change the rules. We need to change because there was ballot harvesting. We need to change because people were abusing the drop box system. We need to change UX, you name it. They said we need to change it. So now the new law says there's a time limit on the drop boxes, no longer 24 hours. Now the drop box is from 9 to 5. Now let's be clear, a drop box from 9 to 5, and people are going to work. How am I supposed to get my ballot? And Jessica, I can't come pick your ballot up anymore to take it to the drop box for you because you're not an immediate family member, which is now against the law for me to take anybody else's ballot. And even with my immediate family, I can only have 2 ballots at a time, which means that if I have 6 people within my family who are living with me because I'm a caretaker of the generation that has gone before me, then I have to make 3 trips to come back and get everybody's ballot. But it also says that, there's a no solicitation zone. That was that 150 feet. I can't give you a bottle of water. I can't give you anything because of that. You know what? Some people were asking, so what about if I'm standing in line and I need my medication? And can someone bring it to me? Is that a violation? The answer is you're right. I can't bring you anything because it's now against the law. Here's what we see now. In the Jim Crow, we've seen this before because in the Jim Crow era, this is what happened, Jessica. They did this because there was a problem and there was a fear of black men, because the black men were voting at that time. Black men will now be able to have a voice. And so during the Jim Crow era, they did this. They continued to move the goalposts to make it harder for us to vote. So that's why we took it to the streets to make this happen. And so the state of Florida, Texas, Utah, all of these other places, they are doing the same exact thing. And they're moving the rules and they're changing the rules. So much so that I believe personally that we as people are going to have to not only educate ourselves, but elected officials are also going to have to educate their constituency base to push back on the same policies that are being pushed out of Tallahassee right now. And this is a prime time for us to use our leadership to that, to our abilities, and using it at every extent of the game. So
did they do anything with requesting vote by mail?
Yes. So now, right now, we're grandfathered in. If you have requested a vote by mail ballot, you're good for this cycle. But next cycle, you're going to have to request a ballot every cycle if you desire to vote by mail.
We're going to have to continue to educate our community. Things are changing, but we stay resilient. We've always been a resilient people.
We have been. And you know what, Jessica? They want us to be fearful of voting. They want us to ask the question. They want us to be scared. But we can't. We're going to have to become so bold, and we're going to have to become so what word I want to use? You pick a word when you're talking about strength. That we're going to have to become that and show them that the laws that you're trying to create to overturn or overtake democracy does not work. We've seen it before. We know what it looked like, and we will act accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Can you explain this gaming compact?
So, which is very interesting because, as you know, that within the gaming compact, which we do in the state of Florida, and I actually got some information that I can actually share with you. Right?
Oh, okay, great.
So, in the state of Florida, we just passed it was agreement that would generate about $2.5 billion in new revenue over the next 5 years and an estimated $6 billion all the way to 2030. And so it is larger and more expansive than any other gaming compact that has happened within the United States. But there is some flaws that were still within the compact within the state of Florida. Now, as you know, I don't know if people have been following this, but the state of Florida 2 years ago told the tribe that we didn't want to be a part of the compact anymore. The governor did. But when the pandemic hit, we saw that our revenue streams of income we wouldn't hit our marks, and we needed to find how we're going to bring revenue into the state. So, of course, as Governor DeSantis has done, that he had, instead of him being proactive, he had to be reactionary to go to the tribe and say, all right, we want to come back into the compact. And so we did. Was it a good deal? No, it wasn't a good deal because it was the governor and the tribe. Nobody else was a part of the negotiations to be able to do that. The compact, it allows the Seminole tribe to offer craps and roulette at their casinos, as well as online and retail sports betting starting as October 15th. But here's the thing: the agreement must still go to the federal government for approval. So yeah, and I can tell you, this will be a lawsuit because the tribe, the Seminoles, and our other gaming entities here in the state of Florida some of the other gaming entities feel that it's not a good deal for them. And my Republican colleagues who believe in this thing called free market, when it came to this issue, they threw that out the window. I mean, the tribe, they have what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And if everyone should be able to participate in this thing that we call the free market, then there is a give and take for both sides. But it's a great deal of money for everyone, for the state. I believe we could have got more out of the deal. But again, this was a deal between the tribe and the governor, not the tribe and the legislature.
Thank you for that. Are there other relevant issues that are going on in the legislation that you would like to share?
I think I know that this legislative session is over, but I really want to encourage people who are watching to understand that next session is probably going to be the most important session for the next 10 years because it is redistricting. And the conversations that's happening around seats is something that our community needs to be paying close attention to, especially when we're looking at Black access seats. Right now, in the state of Florida, the only Black access Senate seat that in South Florida is my seat right now. If they move, not my seat, because my seat is contingent right there in South Florida, we have another Black access seat that they're looking at changing. Although we have good representation in that seat, that's Senator Pizzo. If they change that seat, then my seat will be the only Black access seat we have in South Florida. But then you have other seats, congressional seats, that we need to look at and seeing how those seats are going to look. And all of this is contingent upon and I'm gonna keep coming back to this, is are we engaged to where we are pushing back on these policies that are about to come back? I can tell you this, other communities are. Right? Other communities are making sure that they have the representation that they need because they know that having a seat at the table means everything. And so, Jessica, I would suggest that those who are watching, that they're asking their legislators, reps, senators, congressional members, what are your thoughts? What are you going to be doing to educate your community on redistricting? Is a fair question.
I was going to say, what is it that we need to do? How can we stay abreast of what's going on and make a change so that our voices are heard? Say it one more time. What do they need to do?
I think one, you need to get engaged with your state and your elected officials, period, and ask them what their agenda is in this next cycle. That's the first thing they need to do. Second thing I think people need to do, make sure you look at your voter registration. Look at your voter registration to make sure you're up to date. Your signature is up to date, and if it's not, call your supervisor of election to let them know that you want to update your voter registration card. And the last thing is probably the most important. Hold us accountable. Don't be afraid to reach out to your elected officials to let them know what you like and what you don't like. And because it is important. Don't Don't allow people just to continue to make laws or to continue to vote on things, and you don't check in with them to ask the question why. Because I can tell you this, there are certain legislators who I've seen their voter record, and they're people who are making deals on the back of black folk. And I'm gonna just put it out there. And I've said it in Black Caucus, and I say it here, that just because they're your color don't mean they're your kind. These people, some individuals are elected and they are doing things that hurt the community and coming back to say that it wasn't them. And it's not true. If you're not fighting back against the injustices that's happening and the policies that are happening within, and I don't care what level of government you're in, you're just as bad as the ones who present it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Culture family, we have our marching orders, and please take heed to Senator Jones. We have work to do. Thank you so much, Senator Jones, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure, and we pray for you to remain encouraged through these times.
Thank you. You too, Jessica.
And don't forget to join us tonight at 6 p.m. right here on The Culture for another edition of My 2 Cents. We would love for you all to join us. Grab a drink. It'll be another live YouTube version and Facebook version, and set your clock for a good time.
The Culture is produced and owned by Hip Rock Star Media and cannot be reproduced or broadcast without written consent by Jessica Garrett Modkins. All rights reserved 2020.